Good morning. How is everybody? Today is the 1 year anniversary of my arrival in Saigon. I know I haven't been on YouTube for a while. There is a reason for that. I have been wrapped up in a lot of things. But nonetheless, I am back in action. Since I came to Vietnam 1 year ago today, a lot has happened. As some of you may already know from seeing some of my previous videos, I was let go from Major. I didn't think I did anything wrong, questionable perhaps, but not enough to constitute a termination. To make a long story short, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The school where I was teaching, where I was transferred to and switched assignments with another colleague of mine, was underperforming. We thought that we were relieving each other's headaches because I wasn't happy at the school I was teaching at. Well, it turns out that I basically got rid of one headache and replaced it with an even bigger headache. That school was underperforming. The kids struggled a lot. It went through 5 different teachers, foreign teachers, all in 1 year. That should tell you something right there. But I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they did what a lot of schools in Vietnam do right before Tet. They try to cut down on their overhead and purge their teachers. A lot of companies in Vietnam try to purge their employees around right before Tet. And of course, the foreigner, being the foreigner, I was the first one on the hit list. My colleague, he was on their hit list too, so whoever was there was going to get it. It was pretty much inevitable. Now, there's this thing in Vietnam and a lot of cultures called saving face, where basically keeping up appearances, not losing your temper, not losing your cool is more important than doing what's practical. That's why I've had such a difficult time adapting to this culture, because what seems like common sense in the West isn't so rational in the East. Here, the most logical thing is keeping and saving face, not doing what's practical. And that's why I cannot foresee myself living here much longer. That being said, that's why I was let go. I explained in my last video that it was similar to the time that LeBron James played for the Cleveland Cavaliers the first time, and he had the head coach, Mike Brown, fired. Mike Brown was a great coach. The Cavaliers made it to the Eastern Conference Finals the year before. But LeBron James, being the little punk bitch that he was, had to have it his way. He didn't like being told what to do. His ego got out of control. His coach probably disciplined him, called him out on it. LeBron James got butthurt, had to have it his way, and he threatened to leave the team if the owner didn't fire the head coach. And of course, the owner, trying to save face, thinking only about the money and about the fans, axed the head coach. Because if LeBron James was let go, then nobody would have come to the games anymore. And of course, then LeBron James pulled that cute stunt of having that whole media circus about which team he was going to play for next because his contract ran out. And he went and pulled a dick move like that anyway and went to go play for the Miami Heat. That was similar to what happened with the last agency, whose name I won't mention, did. So, because my friend, colleague, he quit 1 month after I did. That agency lost, probably about anywhere from 8 to 10 people during the time I went to go work for them since last August. That should tell you something right there. But of course, they were thinking only about the money. The company I'm with now, they crushed this last company. The guy who fixes my motorbike and rents it out to me moonlights as a teacher at night. He actually told me that this company that I work for now puts the previous one to shame because he's worked for both. He was right that the last one only cared all about the money, but not the teachers. This one actually takes care of their teachers somewhat. Now, there is some politics involved in Vietnam, in the education system. as I suspect is the case in all 196 countries on Earth. So, you just have to roll with the punches. It's not for everybody. I'm going to be honest with you. I like the amount of pay that I get here compared to what I was making in Thailand, but I'm not going to lie to you. Vietnam doesn't have even half the qualities, the redeeming qualities that Thailand does. This country just does not have the kind of charm and allure that Thailand does. I had a hard time for the longest time because I kept comparing Vietnam to Thailand. That's what made it so hard. And I realized if you can keep comparing one thing to the other, you'll always be disappointed because you'll expect it to be just like that. That's why a lot of people kept saying Sean Connery was the best James Bond because he was the original James Bond. George Lazenby, the second James Bond, had big shoes to fill. Some people said that he was awful as James Bond. I saw on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Most of the James Bonds period, they seem rather drab. But James Bond's not really supposed to have much character. He's supposed to be a male chauvinist, a womanizer, and a spy, and an assassin. That's who he is. That's what a supermodel's supposed to be. It's all about charm and looks and image. You know, what do people expect from a guy who's a spy? But that's just how it was. They expected George Lazenby to be Sean Connery, and then he got butchered by the media. Lazenby quit. Then Connery did one other movie, Diamonds Are Forever, to basically fill the void because Sean Connery didn't want to do it anymore. He hated the character. But then they had Roger Moore come in, and it was that. Like, everyone keeps asking who's the best James Bond. It's all a matter of perspective. I thought the James Bond Pierce Brosnan played was more like a playboy going through midlife crisis. But everybody liked Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan was originally scheduled to play James Bond after Roger Moore quit, but he was unavailable, and then they got Timothy Dalton in there. A lot of people didn't like Timothy Dalton. Personally, I think Dalton was the most underrated Bond because Dalton actually was more like the Bond depicted in the book. He was troubled. He was disturbed. He had some emotional problems. He did everything by the book. He was dedicated to his job. He didn't do anything wrong, but Dalton wasn't Roger Moore. And the point is that if you keep comparing your current assignment to the previous assignment, or your new friend to your previous friends, or your new lover to your previous lover, you're always going to be disappointed. They're not there to fill the person's shoes. They're there to bring a new pair of shoes to the table. That's how it is pretty much in all facets of life. I saw a thing about presidents. Abraham Lincoln was ranked one of the best presidents ever in our entire history. He was one of the most popular ones. But the historians and everybody else compared every president up to Lincoln all the way to George Washington. They compared Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, James Madison, James Monroe, and Andrew Jackson, all to George Washington because they all expected him to be George Washington. The reason why they stopped at Lincoln is because Abraham Lincoln had more challenges than any other president in our history at the time since George Washington. Abraham Lincoln had to preside over the country during the Civil War. He was the first president to get any amendment passed in the Constitution since, who was it in 1814? James Madison? In almost 50 years, actually, it was Thomas Jefferson who'd gotten a previous amendment passed. Barack Obama has had more challenges than any other president since FDR. But you can't just keep comparing every president to the previous president or you'll never be happy. That's how it is, me living in Vietnam. I know I kind of went off on a tangent. But there are some things you have to get used to living in Vietnam. It's not Thailand, number one. Number two, their line of thinking isn't comparison. It isn't akin to that of people in Western cultures. They don't rationalize and think and ponder all the possible outcomes like the Americans, the British, and the Germans do. That's what happens when you live in a communist country where they're trying to implement thought control. They're trying to eke out an existence. And that being said, I ordered a kufi beanie a while back, an Islamic kufi beanie. My mom gave me a hard time about it. She said, "You better be careful. You're in a communist country. You know, they may not be so forgiving." Well, while her concern is duly noted, most people in Vietnam don't give a shit about a kufi beanie. They don't even induce traffic laws here. They don't enforce traffic laws here. People here, they don't do spot checks when they're driving. They don't check their blind spots. They don't check their mirrors. They'll pull right out in front of an intersection with oncoming cars coming on without paying any attention. There's a street called Bui Vien. I did a video about it. People out there are getting zapped out of their minds, high as kites, on drugs, out in the open. The police there, they don't care. They care more about the tourism industry and making money. There's so much corruption out the wazoo in this country that a kufi beanie is the least of their concerns. I got stopped by the traffic police twice already in Vietnam, saying I was going the wrong way. I wasn't going the wrong way. They didn't care about that though. They threatened to take my bike if I didn't pay up. They were running a shakedown. They weren't interested in the laws. All they wanted was to collect some money, collect bribes. The police do that in Vietnam all the time. So if people here are more concerned about where their next meal is coming from, and if they're worried about the police running shakedowns and all the pollution, because the smog level here is off the charts, by the way. That's why you see a lot of people riding around wearing hospital masks. What makes you think that they're worried about some kufi beanie? I already stick out like a sore thumb because I'm white and I've got this big beard. That's the least of their concerns. But the hardest thing about living in Vietnam, other than the language barrier, obvious, it's so damn hot too. As you can see, I'm sweating like a pig, and it's humid. But their way of rationalizing or lack thereof. So, if you expect everyone to have a lot of common sense, and you don't have much patience, and you expect everybody to be as reasonable and pragmatic as the Germans, then I strongly suggest you don't come to Vietnam. If you expect to be around a bunch of Asian people that are tidy, orderly, and disciplined like the Japanese, then I wouldn't come to Vietnam. That was another shocker to me. I half expected coming to Asia that all the people were going to be disciplined and have all their ducks in a row, but that's Japanese culture. That's not Vietnam. That's not even Thailand. People here are warm and friendly, yes, but not like they are in Thailand. Not by a long shot. It's the difference between living in a third world, underdeveloped country as opposed to a more developed country like Japan or even Thailand. Thailand is far more developed than Vietnam. The hospitality it's decent here, though. I mean, people here, they're nice enough. They're friendly. I have people that say hi to me on the streets. A lot of random strangers. A lot of them want to practice their English with me. That's not all that bad. I take it in strides. Another thing about living in Vietnam is the Vietnamese, they love noise for some reason. They love noise. They're very loud. They're very noisy. More often than not, I have been woken up in my room by people across the hallway making a bunch of noise out in the hallway. There's a business over there. They don't have noise ordinances in here. There are a lot of noisy clubs around here. People honk their horns on the streets in Saigon all the time. The Vietnamese think that noise scares away evil spirits. Though that may seem laughable to some of you, that to me sounds no more asinine than a lot of the stuff they teach in the West, especially in religious doctrine, saying that if you do these 10 things, you'll get to go to heaven. But if you don't believe in the man up there, even if you break all these 10 rules, if you don't believe in God, you go to hell. But as long as you believe in God, he'll let you into heaven if you believe in him, even if you break those 10 rules. That he's all wise and all loving and all merciful and all forgiving, but he's going to send you to a place where there's fire and torture and anguish and misery for all of eternity, yet he loves you. So that's stuff like that. Or people thinking that if we teach abstinence in schools, that teenagers all of a sudden aren't going to have sex, that they're going to stop trying to engage in sexual activities. And I've said this before, it's not politically correct, but I don't care. I'm going to say it anyway. Telling teenagers with raging hormones not to have sex is like telling black people not to listen to hip-hop, or Asian people not to eat rice and noodles or use chopsticks. It's like telling Mexican people not to drink tequila or speak Spanish, and it's like telling the British people not to watch soccer or the Germans not to drink beer. It's unrealistic, and it's just asinine. Either they'll blow you off and ignore you and do it anyway, or they'll laugh at you, or they'll get offended and go apeshit and do it anyway out of spite. That's how it is. So, it does no good for me to try to always get angry and upset about Vietnam and the things they do that I don't like. The most plausible solution I can think of is to stay here and finish out my assignment and then move on. I would have done it anyways because I like to travel, but I am nonetheless going to appreciate the good things about Vietnam while I'm here. I like the fact that they have flavored soda drinks. I love Vietnamese coffee. The food here is really cheap. Some of the beaches, I'm sure, are nice. Um, I have 4 different social circles here. Now, most of my friends are British, but still, I have more friends in Saigon than I've had anywhere else I've lived, including Austin. So, I just want to say, hey to everybody, and this is my 1 year anniversary in Vietnam. So, everyone have a good day. Peace out.